Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Future in Review podcast. I'm Berit Anderson, the COO of Future in Review. For those of you who have never heard of Future in Review before, we run the annual FIRE conference, which The Economist has called the best technology conference in the world. And the other arm of our business, Strategic News Service, provides its subscribers with the most accurate source of information about the future of technology and the global economy. So if you enjoy these podcast updates, we hope that you will subscribe and become a member of Strategic News Service using the link below this specific podcast. And today I am going to be, normally I'm the host of this podcast, but today Mark Anderson, our CEO, is going to be interviewing me about this week's global report. If you are an SNS member, you will receive this, or you've already received this in your inbox. But the report today, this week's report, is focused on the Future in Review 100% Renewable Action Tank Initiative. This is a project that we have been working on over the last year with a large group of experts from across the renewable energy space. And our goal with all of this was to create an action plan to transition the US grid to 100% renewable energy. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about that plan today. The full first half of the report is in your inbox if you are an SNS member. The second half will be coming next week. But we hope that you enjoy the conversation.
Yeah. So, Berit.
Yes.
You and we have spent a lot of time, energy, and resources over the last year on this particular set of roundtables, including report outs, and I think with great result, but a lot of time and energy and resources. How did you pick it and why did you pick it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, SNS and Future in Review have both been focused since we started in 1995 on the climate crisis. We've had many speakers come to FIRE who have talked about the importance of getting this right, how important it is for society to mobilize. We've created action plans, which we've sent to Congress to help them understand what needs to happen to respond to this crisis. And when you look at, our potential area of impact as an organization and as a community, the SNS membership, and when you combine that with the potential impact of a specific sector, the grid is an extremely high impact space to be working on. And it's kind of perfect for us as a group because it's highly technical. There are a lot of convoluted actors in the space. It is an area of extremely high investment, especially this year, which you and I have talked about in the past on this podcast. And it creates a platform, like correctly transitioned to 100% renewable energy. It actually creates a platform for the United States to reduce its emissions by up to 77%. So if you combine that with, if we are able to power transportation and buildings and manufacturing, all of those things would rely on a robust and highly technical grid infrastructure. So as we started talking about and thinking about this project, it became clear to me that the grid itself is something that few people really understand. It's really complicated.
True.
There are many different actors and parts of the system. And if you can create a roadmap for how to move forward collectively that benefits all those actors, it has the potential to have a huge impact on overall US emissions, which are the second largest contributor to emissions in the world. China is the first largest contributor, I would just like to say, but we don't have a huge ability to impact Chinese energy policy personally. Yet. So that maybe they'll be next, but we decided to start with the US because it's more likely to listen to our advice.
Much more. Before I have the next question in mind, but I want to make just a statement that I know Berit, but I'm not sure that our members know. And that is the difference between the grid and anything else you can think of in terms of resources and so on, is that it only supplies instantaneous stuff. So it's not like gas, reserve or oil reserve or a gas station or pipelines or water reservoirs or lakes or anything. With electricity, The electron you get is the one that just was created, or
Yeah.
motivated
Yep.
a second ago. So
Yep.
that's a very weird setup, and it makes the grid extremely fragile and difficult to understand and manage.
Yes.
It is
Very
at the
true.
speed of light, basically.
And that, that fact combined with the fact that, we do have some energy storage solutions already, but even the energy storage that we have now primarily stores that energy. Number one, we don't have enough of them. We need more energy storage throughout the entire US grid. But even the storage solutions that we have now really, for the most part, only store energy for up to 12 hours, right? So it's a very short term, kind of storage solution. And that complicates a large part of how do you instantaneously create and distribute enough energy to power the entire US economy and
Right.
all of our homes and businesses is an extreme challenge. And I think that's one of the things that people don't necessarily understand or appreciate about electricity and the grid.
Right. So recent efforts at the federal level, including the Inflation Reduction Act and so on, probably try to approach some of the problem in terms of infrastructure. And how is that different from what you've been trying to achieve with the action takes?
Yeah, so there's two parts to this question. The first is that the funding that has been allocated to grid upgrades through the Inflation Reduction Act and the transportation or the infrastructure bill have primarily been focused on the development of centralized renewable production. So solar farms, wind farms, grid transmission infrastructure upgrades. And the big problem with that is that it takes too long, right? We actually don't have time to site build and develop all of those resources.
Yeah.
It's not going to get us there in time. So it is a part of the plan, but it doesn't actually address the fact that siting of new solar and wind farms right now is taking up to 10 years just for the permitting, right? And same with the production. Like steel has been in really short supply, so like creating those farms is like taking way too long. We actually need to, as a country, get to net neutrality by 2050. That's only, like 25 years from now. And so if you look at the timeline that it takes to approve permitting of new transmission lines, build and construct those centralized generation sources, it's just not going to work, So that's one part. The other part is that while these most recent bills have been really historic and landmark in their nature, they actually only provide a very, very, very small portion of what is needed just to keep the grid running as normal. So I'm forgetting, I think we need about 68 billion to keep the grid just standard running. And actually, I think I'm getting this wrong. I'm not going to guess on the numbers because I don't have them right in front of me, but it's really not enough. It's probably about a tenth of what is needed at the max, just to keep the grid infrastructure stable. Mm-hmm. So it is really exciting that these bills have been passed, but we can't really rely on this approach, like very centralized approach. So a big part of what this plan is advocating for is we need to turn what is essentially mostly a one-way distribution grid into a two-way distribution grid. And the point of that is that at the moment, because of physical limitations, a lot of the energy that's produced by consumers or businesses, so if you have a microgrid on your home or business, right, a battery, solar power, and it's connected to the grid, a lot of that power is being curtailed. So because of the physics of electricity, there's only a certain amount of that power that can be reuptaken into the grid to be redistributed to other consumers. And that at the moment is artificially limiting the development of distributed solar and wind and other resources throughout the United States, Currently in the US, our solar uptake is just about 2%. And so we haven't hit that curtailment phase yet. But for example, Australia and China both have. And in those two countries, I think we're seeing, about 25% of total energy that is being curtailed, which means that even if that energy is produced due to physical limitations, no one can do anything with it. So the solution to that is going to be a wide range of energy storage solutions, innovations in energy storage, but there are also technologies such as the technology produced by Alexis, which has been our partner in this initiative. This is a company that we first encountered as they were a speaker, a fire starter. We selected them a few years ago as a fire starter for the fire conference, which just means this is a technology company building a technology that we think is going to have a positive impact on the world. And they basically have created a platform that allows any utility to increase that number up to about 100% of energy that can be redistributed through the grid using artificial intelligence without replacing any of the poles and wires. So this is important because it means that we don't have to spend a ton of money on expensive grid upgrades. We can put this kind of device. There may be other companies out there making this device as well. I'm not familiar with them, but into homes or communities. It can serve multiple homes, multiple businesses, and it just essentially accelerates our ability to create the investment rationale to develop distributed renewables fully, which can vastly accelerate the transition to 100% renewable energy.
Right. And so I think what I hear you saying is timing is everything here.
Yeah.
Or you have to grow it from the bottom up and the top down at the same time.
Yeah, we have to do all of the things.
Yeah, do it all. One thing. Well, thank you for helping us. And I'm sure you're going to mention that people should come back and read the global report you've written part 1 of so far. And it's back to you, Berit.
Yeah, and I think I would be remiss not to mention Robert McClure, who has been an author and researcher on this report as well. Spent a lot of time and energy helping us write and make sure that everything is all in place. As well as NSys, which is a company that has partnered on this project with us. They're an energy storage company that is building new solutions, revolutionizing old solutions, and trying to make sure that the energy storage that we do develop moving forward is cyber secure and can limit it as safe as possible from outside attack. So
thank you to both of them.
Yeah, thanks to both of them. And we hope that you will become a member of the SNS Global Report.
Absolutely. Thanks, Berit.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.